Hello friends, in the last lecture we have started the clause. In that clause we have seen the meaning of clause, the two kinds of clauses, main clause and subordinate clause. Main clause and subordinate clause. How to identify main clause and subordinate clause I have taught you with examples, and I have given one clue to identify subordinate clause. Subordinate clauses are always started with subordinates. Then we can easily find out what is the subordinate clause and what is the main clause. This part has been completed. Now next part is the kinds of subordinate clause. The kinds of subordinate clause. In this lecture we shall learn all kinds of subordinate clause. Take just title. Take just title, kinds of subordinate clause. Kinds of subordinate clause. Now pay attention here. There are total 3 kinds of subordinate clause. Noun subordinate clause, adjective subordinate clause and adverb subordinate clause. We have learned parts of speech: noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, adverb, preposition, conjunction, interjection. As like parts of speech, we have to learn 3 kinds of subordinate clause. First is noun subordinate clause. Let's learn how to decide whether the given subordinate clause is noun clause or not. First is noun subordinate clause. Just write name, don't write examples. Don't have examples. Okay, now pay attention here. I have written 3 pairs of examples. 3 pairs. First example is for your information. Such kind of example would not be asked. Second kind of example would be asked to identify subordinate clause and name it. Noun subordinate clause. How to identify noun subordinate clause? If the given subordinate clause would be at the place of noun. If the given subordinate clause would be at the place of noun, then that would be noun subordinate clause. You know, noun functions as subject, noun functions as object, noun functions as complement, noun functions as object of preposition. Different functions are performed by that noun, and here also that subordinate clause, noun subordinate clause functions as subject, object, complement and object of preposition. Now look, first sentence I have written first example for your information. It is very doubtful. It is pronoun, pronoun means noun. I have replaced this it with one subordinate clause. What he says is very doubtful. What he says, it is subordinate clause. It's very doubtful. It's main clause. Okay. Now this subordinate clause has been at the place of noun. I have replaced this it with this subordinate clause. It means this is pronoun. Pronoun means noun, and this subordinate clause is at the place of noun, so it is noun subordinate clause. It is noun subordinate clause. This it is subject, it is verb, and it is adjective. It means this subordinate clause functions as subject. Functions as subject in the given sentence. What does it functions? It would not be asked for just your information I am telling. This subordinate clause has been at the place of noun, so it is noun subordinate clause. I would give you another one clue to identify noun subordinate clause. If you ask a question to main verb by what and getting answer would be this subordinate clause, then that would be noun subordinate clause. One clue is there. If you ask a question to main clause by what and getting answer would be the same subordinate clause in the given sentence, then that is noun subordinate clause. Let's check. Let's confirm by asking a question to main clause by what. What is very doubtful? What is very doubtful? What he says. We get this part as answer. So it is noun subordinate clause. Okay. Now second, I know it. Second sentence. I have changed the place of it from subject to object. From subject to object. I have changed the place of it. In first sentence it was subject. In second sentence it is object. But it is noun also. I have replaced this object with this subordinate clause. I know. It is main clause. Okay. What he says is subordinate clause. And this subordinate clause has been at the place of noun. So it is noun subordinate clause. So it is noun subordinate clause. Okay. Now this it functions as object. It functions as object. It is subject, it is verb, and it is object. So this subordinate clause also functions as object. Functions as object. Okay. The subject, verb, and that is object. Have you understood? This subordinate clause has been at the place of noun, so that is noun subordinate clause. Let's confirm by asking a question to main verb by what? What do you know? What do you know? We get this part as answer. What he says. That is noun subordinate clause. Now third sentence. I have changed the place of it. I have kept that after preposition. I am fond of it. I am fond of it. Now, this it is object of preposition. Functions as object of preposition. Prepositional object. I have replaced this it with one subordinate clause. I am fond of. It is main clause. How he sings, it is subordinate clause. It has been at the place of noun, so it is noun subordinate clause. It has been at the place of noun, so it is noun subordinate clause. Okay? And functions as prepositional object. Object of preposition. Object of preposition. Have you understood? Let's confirm by asking a question to main class by what. What do you find of how he says? We get this part as answer, so that is noun subordinate clause. You just know that if the subordinate clause would be at the place of noun, then that would be noun subordinate clause. After getting the proper meaning of the whole sentence, you can easily identify that noun subordinate clause. Okay. Now take information about noun subordinate clause in points. First point. If the subordinate clause in the given sentence, if the subordinate clause in the given sentence occurs at the place of occurs at the place of noun, then such subordinate clause is known as noun subordinate clause. Full stop. Second point. Such noun subordinate clause functions as subject. Such noun subordinate clause functions as subject, object, complement, and the object of preposition. Full stop. Next point. If we ask a question to main clause, by what? Put what into single inverted commas by what, and getting answer will be the subordinate clause given in the sentence. Then such subordinate clause would be noun subordinate clause. Okay, after this information, write down these 3 examples and write two examples. First example is for your information. How have I written? In that same way, you have to write circle to it, arrow here. Write all sentences. complete fast. Now I take another one example. That fast. Look here. My ambition is that I should become a doctor. In this sentence, my ambition is main clause, and from that I should become a doctor, it is subordinate clause. Okay, because that clause has been started with that subordinate. It has been at the place of noun, so it is noun subordinate clause. And it is complement to subject. What is your ambition? That I should become a doctor. That clause is complement to subject, so functions as complement. When you ask a question to main clause, by what we get this part as answer, so it is complement. Okay, it is noun subordinate clause and functions as complement. It is noun subordinate clause and functions as complement to subject my ambition. Okay, write down this one example. That fast. Okay, now I am starting second kind of subordinate clause, that is adjective subordinate clause. We have completed noun subordinate clause. Now let's start adjective subordinate clause. Just take title, now pay attention here. What is the definition of adjective? What is the meaning of adjective? A word which tells more information about noun or pronoun. It means adjective is a describing word. It describes noun or pronoun in the given sentence. The same information, the same feature should be used to identify adjective subordinate clause. Okay? I write some sentences here. I have written 4 examples here. First, let's identify main clause and subordinate clause. First sentence, this is the girl who talked to me yesterday. Main clause is this is the girl. It is main clause because it expresses complete meaning. Who talked to me yesterday, it is subordinate clause because it cannot express the complete meaning. And this statement has been started with who? With subordinate. So it is subordinate clause. I have lost the book which you lent me. I have lost the book, it is main clause as it expresses complete meaning and it is meaningful. Okay? Which you lent me, it is subordinate clause as it cannot express the complete meaning and started with subordinated which. Next sentence, the moment which is lost forever. This sentence is a bit different. Main clause has been separated into subject and predicate part. Has been separated. The moment is lost forever. It's the main clause. Is main clause. The moment is lost forever, that is main clause. Which is lost, it is subordinate clause. It is subordinate clause. Okay? As this statement has been started with this subordinated which. So it is subordinate clause. I took all the money that was inside. I took all the money. It is main clause that was inside. It is subordinate clause. Okay? It expresses complete meaning, but that part cannot express the complete meaning. Now let's decide how that subordinate clause is adjective subordinate clause. I have just told you the meaning of adjective. If a word tells more information about noun or pronoun, that is adjective. The same feature is here, same rule have to be used. If subordinate clause describes noun or pronoun in the main clause, if the subordinate clause in the given sentence tells more information about noun or pronoun in the main clause, then such subordinate clause could be adjective subordinate clause. Look its meaning. This is the girl who talked to me yesterday. Who talked to me yesterday? Who? That girl. Means this subordinate clause tells more information about this noun girl in the main clause. So it is adjective subordinate clause. It is adjective subordinate clause as it describes the girl, the noun in the main clause. It tells more information about noun in the main clause. This is the girl who talked to me yesterday. Who talked? That girl. Okay, this part, this subordinate clause describes noun in the main clause. So that is adjective subordinate clause. If we thought of the whole sentence, then this part functions as adjective. This part functions as adjective. Okay? Now second, I have lost the book which you lent me. I have lost the book which you lent me. Which means the book. Which you lent me. What did I of that book? I lost it. Means which means the book. So this subordinate clause tells more information about the book which you lent me, I lost. Have you understood? So it is adjective subordinate clause as it describes the book in the main clause. Now second, the moment which is lost forever. Which is lost, which means what? The moment. The moment which is lost forever. Which means what? The moment. So this subordinate clause tells more information about this moment, this noun in the main clause. So it is adjective subordinate clause. Adjective subordinate clause. And this whole subordinate clause functions as adjective. I took all the money that was inside. I took all the money that was inside. Okay. That was inside is subordinate clause. That means what? Money. That means what? Money. So that subordinate clause tells more information about noun in the main clause. Noun is money. So that is adjective subordinate clause. I took all the money that was inside. What was inside? Money. Okay, means that subordinate clause describes money, noun in the main clause, so that is adjective subordinate clause. Have you understood? That subordinate clause functions as adjective in the whole sentence. Now write information. If the subordinate clause in the given sentence, if the subordinate clause in the given sentence, if the subordinate clause in the given sentence describes noun or pronoun, put noun or pronoun into single inverted commas, noun or pronoun in the main clause, then such subordinate clause is called as adjective subordinate clause. Adjective subordinate clause. Such subordinate clause functions as an adjective in the given whole sentence. Okay, after this information, write down these four examples. Write all sentences. Okay, now Pay attention here. If you have completed, then pay attention. Adjective subordinate clause has been completed. Now last is adverb subordinate clause. I complete that adverb subordinate clause. Just take title. Look, we have learned about adverb. Adverb is a such word. Just write title and pay attention. Adverb is such a word which describes an action, an adjective or another adverb in the given sentence. That is also describing word of action or adjective or an adverb. The same information, same feature should be used to identify adverb subordinate clause. I write some sentences here, then I explain how to identify adverb subordinate clause. Don't write examples. Okay, pay attention here. I have written 4 sentences. First of all, let's identify main clause and subordinate clause. First sentence is, we will go after the school is over. We will go is main clause. After the school is over, it is subordinate clause. It has been started with after, and it is not meaningful. It cannot express complete meaning. The girls went where they could chat. The girls went, it is main clause. Where they could chat, it is subordinate clause. It is subordinate clause. has been started with where. My parents were happy because I stood first in the class. My parents were happy, the main clause, because I stood first in the class. It is subordinate clause because it's subordinate. The crops will fail unless it rains this week. The crops will fail with the main clause unless it rains this week. It is subordinate clause started with subordinate unless. Okay, now let's learn how to identify the given subordinate clause is adverb subordinate clause. I have just told you the definition of adverb. Adverb is a such word which tells more information about an action, an adjective, or another adverb in the given sentence. The same feature should be used here. If the subordinate clause would describe action, adjective, or another adverb in the given sentence, in the given main clause. Basically, if the subordinate clause describes the action or adjective in the main clause, then such subordinate clause would be adverb subordinate clause. Listen once again. If the subordinate clause in the given sentence describes the action or an adjective in the given main clause, then that is adverb subordinate clause. Okay. First sentence, look its meaning. We will go after the school is over. When we will go after the school is over means the action of going has been modified, has been described by this subordinate clause. When will we go after school is over? So this subordinate clause describes the action in the main clause. So it is adjective subordinate clause. It is adjective It is adverb subordinate clause. It describes the action in the main clause. So it is that is adverb subordinate clause as describes action. The girls went where they could chat. The subordinate clause where they could chat means where did the girls go? Where they could chat. The subordinate clause describes the action of going in the main clause. So it is adverb subordinate clause. So it is adverb subordinate clause. Okay. This subordinate clause describes action in the main clause. So that is adverb subordinate clause. Now second, my parents were happy because I stood first in the class. Why were your parents happy? Because I stood first in the class. That subordinate clause describes an adjective happy in the main clause. Why were your parents happy? Because I stood first in the class. Because you stood first in the class. That subordinate clause describes an adjective in the main clause. So it is adverb subordinate clause. Okay, adverb subordinate clause. The crops will fail unless it rains this week. If it doesn't rain, what will happen? The crops will fail. So this subordinate clause describes the action of failing. This subordinate clause describes the action of failing. So it is adverb subordinate clause. It is adverb subordinate clause. Have you understood? The crops will fail unless it rains this week. If it doesn't rain this week, then what will happen? The crops will fail. So this subordinate clause describes an action of failing in main clause. So that is adverb subordinate clause. Have you understood? Now take information about adverb subordinate clause. Take information about adverb subordinate clause. if the subordinate clause in the given sentence, if the subordinate clause in the given sentence, if the subordinate clause in the given sentence describes an action, comma, an adjective or an another adverb in the main clause, or an another adverb in the main clause, then such subordinate clause is known as adverb subordinate clause. Then such subordinate clause is known as adverb subordinate clause. Adverb subordinate clause. Full stop. Now next point. Such adverb subordinate clause functions as an adverb in the given whole sentence. Functions as an adverb in the given whole sentence. Okay, after this information, write down these 4 examples. Whole sentences. Underline main clause, adverb subordinate clause properly. Okay, if you have completed, then pay attention here. Underline main clause, subordinate clause, that adverb subordinate clause properly. Today, we have completed noun subordinate clause, adjective subordinate clause, and adverb subordinate clause. All 3 parts have been completed with information and examples. Now, time is about over. In the next lecture, I will take all kinds of examples on noun, adjective and adverb. Okay, in the next lecture, I will take some more examples and I will give some more for practice. After this lesson, we shall start new lesson of ground. Okay. So today I stop here.